Welcome to Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization Technical Advisory Committee, Citizen Advisory Committee, September 8th, 2025. I'd like to call this meeting to order and start with the pledges of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will start with public comment period. Do we have anyone that has completed a speaker card? No? All right. From there, we will move on to the Executive Director's Report by Georgiana.
All right. Well, good morning, members. It's great to see everyone. I have a short report this morning. The first item, I want to show you a Vision Zero slide for the TPO. And to renew our commitment to our Vision Zero efforts, we wanted to take a moment to acknowledge how our community has recently been impacted by crash fatalities. This crash data was obtained on August the 19th from Signal 4 Analytics and the Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. So there were 82 fatalities in 2024. There have been 47 crash fatalities in 2025 as of now. That's 11 fatalities since the last TPO Governing Board meeting on July 10th, roughly 63 days ago, just to kind of put that in perspective. So the first three news stories here really highlight local fatal crashes involving vulnerable road users. A bicyclist was struck by a car on July 10th. A motorcyclist struck a guardrail on July 12th, and an e-bike rider was struck by a car on August the 17th. Another devastating loss in our community was Olivia Maggs, a 32-year-old nurse and mother of three who was killed after her van was struck by another vehicle that had experienced a tire blowout, and that happened on May 26th. So we just wanted to bring this to your attention. Again, these losses should really ground us in our most important purpose. And so working together and that purpose is just working together to reach zero fatalities and serious injuries in our community. So we will be providing a slide like this. I'm not sure if we're going to do it monthly or quarterly, but I think it's just important to show at meetings, and we will be showing this to the governing board as well. The last item I wanted to bring to your attention, I'd like to ask Abby to come up. Abby is going to talk about the Golden Image Awards that the TPO really swept this year, and we are so excited about it. So Abby?
I'm Abby Hemingway, and I'm the Public Information and Outreach Manager for the TPO. And really exciting news, especially being a government agency. We're proud to share that the Space Coast TPO brought home multiple awards at the recent 2025 Florida Public Relations Association Golden Image Awards Gala. It's one of the state's most prestigious awards program for public relations excellence across the state. And we received a total of 4 awards. So just very briefly, I just wanted to highlight the first award was an award of distinction for a special event, our Fast Forward workshop series that we held last year. And awards of distinction recognize entries that meet a standard of excellence. Led by our senior transportation planner, Sarah Crom, this forward-thinking event series spotlighted the ways that our organization involved the public in one of our largest core work products, our long-range transportation plan, which we'll be adopting today. So also just big thanks to our friends at HDR who have supported this project along the way. And then to close it out, we received a total of 3 awards for our second submission, which was in the category of news release or pitch, and it was for our Safer Tracks Ahead SCTPO's Rail Crossing Grant announcement. We received a Judges Award, which is presented for a return on investment, impressive return on investment. Golden Image Award, which is a top scoring entry in that category. And then this was a first for our organization, and really this rarely happens for government organizations, a Grand Golden Image Award, which represents the best winning entry in its division as a whole. And so this specific news release was really a big one for the TPO. It served as our first public announcement of securing a large-scale safety grant. It involved a lot of moving parts, a lot of partners, and once again, just a huge thank you to our team and our community partners who really make these projects successful along the way. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, great work. And we're so excited. So that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'll move now on to item 4, consent agenda. I'll read the entire, both items. 1A is approval for Technical and Citizens Advisory Committee meeting minutes for July 7th, 2025. Item B is approval for work order 26-20K, Vision Zero Speed Management and Lighting Study. And I understand there'll be a discussion, some discussion on this item. Yes? We have a motion. I can't see your name, sorry. Debbie. Debbie, thank you. Do I have a second? And then we'll come back to discussion. We're on the...
TAC, from the TAC.
Yeah, TAC. Devin, we have a second from Devin over the CAC.
All right, from the CAC, do I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Motion from Gil, second from Eric. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Well, that was a little bit quick. I did want to make a point on the lighting study,
Go ahead, Pete.
because what Georgiana did came up there and she showed us a Vision Zero. Now, this lighting and speed study plays right into that, where they're actually going into sections in Brevard County that have high accident rates and trying to figure out what's causing the accidents. And I was going to ask about this anyway, because it's involving speed limits and lighting. And I remember there being a big hunk of money in what the feds gave down for safety improvements, and we were looking for ways to wisely spend it, and this seems to be a way to wisely spend it. Now, we have lights and we have speed, but at the same time, we have a safety engineer from DOT telling us that sometimes speed and lights don't do it. You need traffic calming devices installed in these areas to really get the job done. And where do I speed? Open highways, nighttime, when you can't see so good, I hit the gas. I mean, that's just the way I drive, and I'm sure other people drive the same way. So is there any traffic calming considerations being on these stretches, or is it just lower the speed limit and add lights?
Sarah, you can, I don't know if you want to add anything, not to my knowledge. What we are doing here is just, oh, I'm sorry, Patty. This is Patty's project. I'll let Patty discuss it.
Patty Rendon, transportation planner, Space Coast TPO. So yes, going to be doing data collection to see what the traffic behaviors are and focusing on the portion of the speeding and lighting. So that's kind of part of it, is to kind of see where we're at, but focusing more on the those portions before finding out what those corridors.
Well, I could
what's going
clean
on.
it up for you. Start off with speed and lights. If that doesn't work, and you still get people creamed in these areas, then you go look again and see if we can do something else.
Yeah, just figuring out exactly. Yes, please.
Travis Hills with Kittleson, so we're going to be working on the work order. So Pete, great question. So what we're going to be doing, like Patty mentioned, so we're getting all the data to analyze where we have our highest speeding corridors, looking at some different metrics, kind of above posted speed for the average travel speed of how fast people are going. The plan is to, once we identify those corridors, come up with those speed management recommendations. So that'll be kind of the second part of the study. It'll be looking at engineering countermeasures, speed management countermeasures, and then also lighting, and that's kind of a separate, because you're trying to tackle two different kind of issues, right? There's the speeding issue and then there's a lighting issue. Sometimes they overlap, but in cases where they don't, you're going to be looking at those specific countermeasures separately on those different corridors. So, cool.
Okay, any other questions? Back to the TAC.
Okay, any discussion for TAC? Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
I was going to try to catch them before they ran away. The same item that Peter mentioned on 4B. One thing I see I'm supportive of that, looking at both the speed and lighting, but one thing I see that's missing is looking at light pollution and sky glow, which DOT has been doing a lot with light change outs. Some of the older lighting design, high pressure sodium actually put over 30% of the light up into the air. Dark sky initiative actually helps not only with safety, but with wildlife, tourism, and also with businesses and everything. And that whole dark sky initiative actually makes the lighting, helps get rid of the sky glow and puts the light where it needs to be on the roadway. So I'd recommend that gets incorporated into this scope of work. A lot of the local lighting ordinances are associated with beachside, with sea turtle preservation, but doing that, whole scale on all new projects could definitely help, Space Coast be a leader in trying to make our area darker so we can actually see the night sky and help safety.
Yeah, just a comment. I just saw Travis nodding his head as you were speaking. I think that's going to be one of the considerations under the lighting study.
Yeah, and I'll come talk to the mic so I'm not across the room. But so back about 10 years ago, there were road safety audits done throughout the county. A1A was one of those corridors, and so the sea turtle nesting was one of those kind of key issues when it comes to lighting, and that was one of the first times where I ever experienced that, because I just figured, okay, go put up lighting and everything's good. But those beachside considerations are ones that, what you may do kind of west of US 1 versus what you do on the beach side from a lighting perspective are going to be different. But the initiatives that you noted, we'll note those, and then as we get into developing what that lighting kind of countermeasure or plan looks like, we'll take that into consideration. So.
Thank you. I didn't see it addressed in the write-up.
Right.
My recommendation is to not just make it beachside, but make it, as narrow as Brevard County is, make it everywhere.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
To help with that, sky glow reduction and reducing light pollution. So.
Robert, Debbie Flynn, City of Palm Bay over here. Most cities do have a dark sky ordinance, and so does Palm Bay. I believe most of our cities in Brevard County already has a dark sky ordinance for that.
Cool.
Any additional discussion? Okay, we had a motion and a second, so TAC, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. On to agenda item number 5, actions. 5A, approval for resolution 26-08, fiscal year 26 to 30, Transportation Improvement Program Roll Forward Amendment number 1.
All right, this is my item. This is our first amendment to the new Transportation Improvement Program that was adopted on July 1st. This is a routine process that we go through, and it's called the Roll Forward TIP Amendment. So each year, FDOT develops the tentative 5-year work program that becomes effective on the 1st of July. Then the TPO incorporates the tentative work program into our new Transportation Improvement Program. Year 1 of the TIP and the work program should always match. However, when the new TIP and the work program become effective, there are often projects that were supposed to get authorized prior to June 30th, but did not. So these projects will automatically roll forward in the work program, but not in the TIP. So hence the need to reconcile the two documents and bring the TIP up to date. So basically, we want to ensure the projects with federal funding can be authorized prior to the federal fiscal year, which begins October the 1st each year. So the roll forward report is attachment 1 in your package, and it's quite lengthy. and it is attachment 1 of Resolution 26-08. And this attachment will be added into the Transportation Improvement Program in the appendix to satisfy this requirement. It's a lot of projects. Again, this is routine, and I'm certainly not going to go through all of them. So we are requesting approval of the roll forward tip amendment.
Thank you. Do I have a motion from the TAC? Right. Debbie, do I have a second?
I'll second.
No, we need, it's from the TAC, Greg.
Second from the TAC. Devin again. All right, over to the CAC.
Okay, now from the CAC, we have motion from Greg
I'll
Stoll.
second it. Adam Cole, District 1.
And a second from Adam. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Back to the TAC. Oh, you have a question, Greg?
Amateurs?
Back over to the TAC. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, I think we all need a little bit more coffee this morning.
Can I make one comment, please?
Go ahead, Greg.
The last vote we took on 4, we discussed, we had some discussions on it. We had some discussions on it from CAC and TAC, but we took our vote on the CAC, then it went to TAC, and you continued the discussions. And that could have impacted how I would have felt about it technically.
I believe the CAC discussion, are you talking about the CAC discussion?
We had CAC discussion, we took the vote, TAC discussion. We just voted from our side. So I don't know if it would be.
No, I think it was just the CAC discussion that Pete brought up. I think it was mostly clarification.
Right.
Yeah.
Really, so it
Yeah.
would have no effect on the vote.
The CAC discussion actually happened after you voted. Pete came in late on that one, so that was,
Yeah.
right?
All right, but then TAC had discussion. Does that not impact how,
No, it's how the TAC would vote.
just TAC? Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, on to item 5B. This is adoption of Resolution 26-07, Advanced 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan, LRTP.
All right. Good morning. I'm Sarah Crom. I'm the Senior Transportation Planner with the Space Coast TPO. I'm going to make this short and sweet because we've been talking to you about the LRTP for the last 3 meetings pretty heavily. And so, nothing has really changed since July. We've just been going through the processes that we have to. So, friendly reminder of our bridge is we start off with the long-range transportation plan that literally lays out the basis of the next 25 years of the transportation investments and needs along the Space Coast. Those projects are prioritized via our annual call for projects and list project priorities. And ultimately, when they're funded, they go into the TIP or Transportation Improvement Program. So we're over in that farthest left bubble. So a long-range transportation plan, the purpose of it is to forecast the travel demands of people and goods within our planning area and identify what are the needs that our transportation needs over the next 25 years. So we're trying to use a crystal ball and look way, way out there in the future. We then prioritize those needs for various funding sources. And in order for a project to be cost feasible in the LRTP and move forward, or in order for a project to receive state or federal funding, it must be what is considered cost feasible. So we go through, or we have been going through for about 2 years, this process of developing an LRTP, where we started off with goals, objectives, performance measures. We considered the issues and opportunities, and we developed a needs list. We then dove into our financial resources, prioritized, and ultimately we are now here for plan adoption. So we didn't do this in a silo. We went through a pretty robust public engagement process. That's actually probably the bulk of the work that goes into building an LRTP, is ensuring that the public and our partners have the opportunity to provide their input and be engaged. So through that process, we had a working group. Many of our TAC members were on that working group. They reviewed documents, provided feedback, ensured that we were partnering with our local agencies and government partners. We also had an additional meeting with our environmental partners, and also Space Florida hosted us to meet with other modal agencies and partners. In person, we had a lot of public engagement. We had the 4 public workshops that Abby mentioned that recently won the award. We had our open house back in June. And then as a follow-up, we did a virtual webinar, as well as also other engagement activities along our website and our social media. So just as a friendly reminder, I know you've seen this graph a lot, but you know, this is our financial resources in the 2045 LRTP with 1.18 billion. That then got sucked down to 462 million, and so we're really working in a deficit, so some very tough decisions needed to be made in this long-range transportation plan. Ultimately, that made the cost feasible plan a pretty easy choice, where we really focused in on our list of project priorities that you all adopted in July, and tried to move as many of those projects that were on the list of project priorities forward in the cost feasible plan. We then went through our public comment period. We are required to do a 45-day public comment period, and so that was July 14th through August 28th. And I have provided you with a handout of the 2 public comments that we received within that public comment period. One was a discussion of questions regarding the alignment and time frame for the Washingtonia extension. The other was requesting a sidewalk along Kings Highway. And then last Friday, I received an additional comment about the importance of the 528 project and request to remove the causeway. None of these comments impact the cost feasible plan, and so staff doesn't recommend any changes based on the public comments. So with that, we'd request that you recommend the adoption of Resolution 26-07, Advanced 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan.
Any questions or comments for Sarah? Pete?
Yeah, this has got nothing to do with the plan, but I see the #1 item is still the train station. And I recall that folks from Brightline told us a big part of the draw is $5 a day long-term parking. And in my brain, that's a parking garage. Now, when I hear discussion about the train station, never once did I hear about parking. Has anybody even thought about parking, or are we just going to build a station?
The intermodal station feasibility study that Laura conducted a couple years ago has various parking options, yes. Yeah, that was within that conceptual design.
Right, but there's this money that I'm looking at is strictly for the train station.
It includes a parking lot for 500 spaces for 500 vehicles. That is part of the project.
Well, thank you,
Per Brightline.
Thank you, project manager. You still stuck in that role?
Well, again, this is going to be, Brightline would be responsible for actually constructing it. It does include a parking lot for 500 spaces, and in the future, at some point, it could very well morph into a parking garage.
Right, and now we're stuck with the maintenance because, Brightline wouldn't build it. They build it according to all specifications, federal and state. So if we want, additional, that's up to us. It's, and we're building it as to their specifications. I mean, are they having any input?
They will be constructing it, so this grant that.
Right, as far as design and utility and all of that.
And they will be maintaining and operating the facility.
Okay, so we
Yes.
just build it and turn it over to them?
We don't build it, they will build it. They are
Right.
responsible for
We give them the
construction.
money, they build it, and then they handle the maintenance and the upkeep and the parking area too.
Correct,
So we're
correct.
done with it. Once it's in place, we're done with it.
That's my understanding.
And then the second item, it looks like $1 billion of construction on the B line. It says fully funded.
Yes, let's talk about that if we could, Mr. Chair, because I know Bob had a question about that as well. Originally, there was a portion of the beach line that was not fully funded, but I see here, when we had our transportation subcommittee meeting, Nick presented the SIS-cost feasible plan, and it did show in that SIS-cost feasible plan that both sections of the beach line was fully funded within those time bands. So basically, the section from Courtney to the 401 bridge that is fully funded between the 2035 and 2040 time band, and then from east of Industry to Courtney, the western portion is fully funded in the 2035 to 40 time band as well. So that is per the SIS-cost feasible plan, and I think, Sarah, you also sent that information
Correct,
out
yeah.
to the subcommittee
Correct,
and
yes.
Bob and the port. So that's great news. That's what we were so excited about. So not only is 401 fully funded in the SIS-cost, this is DOT's SIS-cost feasible plan, let me be clear. Our long-range plan has to be consistent with DOT's SIS-cost feasible plan. So we have 401 in both sections of 528. So Pete, to your point, that's fantastic news. But it's in the future. It's not in the 5-year work program.
Well, there was always the construction that the B line and the bridge would have to be constructed at the same time because the elevations have to match.
Yes.
And looking at the cost of the bridge, it seemed like they're going to elevate it, and it's going to be elevated all the way across the barge canal. There isn't going to be a slope up and a slope down. And I mean, for
If they were to construct the 401 bridge separate from the 528 projects, they would have to lift one of the on-ramps,
right,
correct?
but
Yes.
looking at the money.
But they, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
It's all
looking-
within
yeah.
the 5-year time band.
Yeah, I'm looking at the money, and the money tells me elevated.
But you know, I think the DOT project manager, they are trying to be sensitive to how, instead of widening that section of 528, could they pull out a piece of it at the ramp so that it can all tie together? So I think they're trying to be sensitive to that. And that may happen, you know, before the widening of 528 takes place. So that's what we, you know, we've heard in the past at the 401 bridge meetings.
Yeah.
Bob?
And to Peter's question, you're right, all three of those, the 401 and the two sections of 528 is $1 billion when you add up the numbers. But I guess my question is, there is some, I believe there's some construction funding for 401.
Design funding.
Pardon me?
Design funding.
Design funding. It's a little, I don't want to say misleading, but when you look at the table, I know it's you know, it has the 2035 to 2040 horizon for the SIS funds, and it says fully funded. But as you just presented, there's only 9% of funding for these projects up to 2050. So I don't know what actually goes in the final report and gets submitted to DOT, but there should be a footnote on a lot of these projects that are fully funded that there's no funding currently available for them. So that's where I'm just a little confused with how it's presented and making sure that it's clear that, you know, right now, specifically 528, there's zero on both of those.
Yes, it is crystal clear within any LRTP that these are all financial projections, and that unless it's adopted within the TIP, that money doesn't, you know, quote unquote exist. It hasn't been allocated to a project. That's standardized across every single LRTP across the nation, that's known and recognized. Is we're trying to project 25 years out. And obviously, we don't have 25 years worth of money sitting in a bank somewhere, so.
Yes, and so Bob, to Sarah's point, you know, our transportation improvement program, how I always say that's real money on real
correct,
projects.
yeah.
That's money we can bank on. It is in the DOT's 5-year work program that is coming up, you know, within our transportation improvement program. But, you know, these projections, we have to build our plan, our future, our transportation system and our needs on the projections.
Correct. Yeah, we can't play with real money out in 2035 because it doesn't exist yet.
And maybe that's what it needs to say is, you know, these are, you know.
There's a very clear financial technical memorandum within the LRTP that discusses exactly how these numbers were created. You know, in the actual report, it's summarized in a very short way because we don't want to create a 500-page report, but rather there is an appendix that very clearly spells out what the financial resources are, what their sources were, how they were projected, how we projected the estimates. But you know, also once again, going back to Georgiana's earlier point, is we're looking at CIS projects, and the TPO does not develop the CIS cost feasible. We adopt it by reference. And so all of the, you know, these 3 projects we're adopting by reference from FDOT's work. So hopefully that helps clear that up. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Eric?
Just to build on his question or clarify, why do we use the term fully funded? Is that based on what is there a definition in sort of the planning process that says these must be called fully funded based on certain stipulations or criteria?
Yeah, that's the correct terminology, is that it's fully funded because you have fully funded it within the projected planning document. So we have, you know, ultimately as a TPO, our main goal is to plan accordingly for the future transportation funding. And as we've seen, you know, these projects can take 20, 30 years to complete. And so if we're not looking forward and trying to guesstimate when we could fully fund a project, the project isn't going to move. Also, a project has to be fully funded within your cost feasible in order for us to put money on it. So if a project does not have that terminology fully funded, FDOT and the feds are not going to let us put state or federal money on it.
Okay, so it's fully funded within the planning process?
Correct. It's fully funded within the planning horizon.
I understand, yeah.
So it's fully funded within the 2035 to 2040 time band.
Yeah, Pete?
Yeah, I know this from experience, that once a project is fully funded, Brevard County or the port can come up with the cash and build the project right now. And on the date when the DOT would build it, they'll reimburse the port or the county. And a lot of areas in Florida do that. Once the money becomes available and they feel the need of a project is quicker than the date where the money becomes available in DOT's budget, they'll lay it out, build the improvement, and then get reimbursed at a later date. Of course, we're broke. Now, if the port wants to spend $1 billion, they could start the project as soon as the design is complete.
Well, on that note, I'm sorry.
Christie, you had a question?
Yeah, on pages 84 and 85 of the table, where it's the unfunded needs, it almost to me reads like that's a prioritization. Am I looking at that right?
Those projects are listed based upon their scores of the the project prioritization process. Correct.
So Dairy Road, for some reason, is more important than Hollywood Boulevard and the widening?
I would have to go back and look at what what scores they scored higher on than others, but basically we listed the unfunded needs based on their raw data scores.
Okay.
And so for whatever reason, Dairy ranked higher than Hollywood when we put, when we focus just on data.
And then US 192, is there mention in the LRTP of that 6-lane feasibility study that really just said that US 192, the area that it should be 6-lane, remember that FDOT study was from, Wickham to Dairy, that was really the crucial segment, but yet I see all these other segments in there.
Well, they are all identified as needs.
But why isn't the Wickham to Dairy one like one line with its own? I mean, FDOT did an entire study about that.
It's project number 25 on the list.
Yes, correct.
It's on 86.
Yeah, but I don't understand why that doesn't rank higher if FDOT did a study and they said that was really the 6-lane
Within
segment.
the raw data, we don't have a mechanism to plug in points just because it was studied. It's literally, it's the same prioritization process that we use in our list of project priorities. And so this is strictly data-based. Now, a project that's in the unfunded needs we can't put federal or state funding on that because it's not fully funded. And so, really this is a waiting list for if a project, was pursued for a grant, we could then pull it in. If money magically fell from the, sky, but ultimately, it's 25, moving it up to be above the other ones isn't gonna make the project move any quicker.
Yeah, Veronica?
Okay, thank you. I recommend if this could help clarify the doubt of the.
Could you,
fully-
I'm
fully
sorry,
funded-
can you?
No worries. I recommend that to help clarify the doubt of fully funded in the future, if you can share an extract of that memo where it explains how that fully funding works. You mentioned it's a very long report, but if there's 2-3 pages that explain how that works, if you can share with the members so everybody can clearly understand what fully funded means, because I know that at least in my organization, we had the same question, and if we can all understand that wording, it will be better.
Yeah, absolutely. All of the technical memos in the final report will be going up on the website as we finalize, edits and reviews. Yeah.
And Sarah, just to clarify, this is the final step in that approval process for
Correct.
these
So,
committees, right?
yes, so adoption of the resolution, which as of today, we are out of compliance if we don't, or no, as of Thursday, we're out of compliance if we don't adopt the resolution because we have to do it every 5 years. And so adoption of the resolution is kind of the final step, and then we have 90 days to wrap up all of our final reports and technical memorandums and get those over to the feds and posted.
And just remind me, this process, this planning process has been going on for quite a while. Can
2
you recall?
years.
2 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
2 years, and we've come to this committee and board, I believe it was 5, or is it 6 times, Nick? Oh, it's 5 or 6.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any further discussion? If not, for the TAC, do I have a motion? Veronica, do I have a second? Debbie, over the CAC.
And from the CAC, do we have a motion, please? Motion from Gil, and second from Laura. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Over the TAC, any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
And thank you for the excellent work, Sarah, and the TPO staff and consulting team. While I think it's very disappointing that we're looking at a 9% funded number, I hope everyone can take that message back to your leadership or your constituents and get that message out there. This is a long-range transportation plan. This is our children, our grandchildren here on the Space Coast, and there's a lot of priorities coming up, and the numbers are going down instead of construction costs keep going up. So, thank you. All right, on to 5C, approval resolution 26-05, amendment to the bicycle and pedestrian master plan. And this includes number 1, Southern Brevard Trails Master Plan, number 2, North Merritt Island Pioneer Trail Feasibility Study, and number 3, new East-West Regional Trail Connections.
So before Travis starts the presentations, I did just want to clarify that this is a series of 3 presentations that we're doing one resolution in order to update the bike ped master plan just to make it as clean as possible. But basically, Travis will present, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions after each of these items. So that's kind of the format, so, sorry.
All right, bring this up just a little bit. Everybody can hear me all right for now? Awesome. All right, once again, I'm Travis Hills with Kittleson. I'm here to present on the Southern Brevard Trails Master Plan and then the North Merritt Island Pioneer Trail Feasibility Study. So starting with the Southern Brevard Trails Master Plan. So a little bit on the presentation outline. We'll discuss the project vision, goals, and our study area. We'll talk through a very brief summary of existing conditions, followed by our stakeholder and public outreach that we performed. I'll also talk through the trail hierarchy and typology system that we use for the project, and then ultimately the recommended trails and how we prioritize those for Southern Brevard County. So on the project vision and study area, so really what we were here to do was to provide a master plan for Southern Brevard County that really enhanced the lifestyle for the folks that live down there. So a lot of public outreach occurred, but really what we were trying to promote is an active transportation network focused on recreation and public health. Also looking to spur local economic development with these different trail connectivity, trail network and connectivity that we were proposing. Also promoting environmental stewardship, and then really kind of continuing to enhance that quality of life for the residents in Southern Brevard County. So our study area, we basically went from Palm Bay Road in the north to the Indian River County line in the south, St. Johns River in the west, and US 1 in the east. So for folks that have been around for a little while, we typically present this kind of project process overview slide for most of our projects, just to give people an idea of where we're at in the planning process. So right now, and kind of dovetailing back into the LRTP that was just discussed, we're at that kind of 10,000 foot level, that long range transportation planning kind of level. This is a master plan. Hopefully from here, we're going to be using this to identify different recommended trail corridors that can move on to further study. And I'll actually talk about what one of those studies looks like here in the next presentation. For folks that kind of aren't familiar or kind of going back to that LRTP discussion, tentative timeline. So where we're at today, we have no projects. We have a recommended list of projects, but those need to be studied. Those need to move into a feasibility study, potentially a PD&E study, design right away if necessary, and ultimately construction. Where we're at right now with this study is we're essentially basically 10 to 15 to maybe even 20 years away from getting anything constructed with kind of how the current climate is with funding. Obviously, as Sarah mentioned, if funding falls out of the sky, these projects could move forward quicker, but there's a lot of ifs, and we're kind of in that 10 to 15 year time frame to get recommendations on the ground from this plan. So our summary of our existing conditions. So we reviewed relevant previous plans, studies, and policies. That really helps out the foundation for this plan. We then mapped and analyzed a number of different data sets, land use, demographics, and then most importantly, where we have existing or planned pedestrian and bicycle facilities in the southern part of the county. We overlaid all of those to create an active transportation propensity index. I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a few slides. And then really kind of using that to help gauge where we need that future trail connectivity for the network moving forward. So then here's a slide showing a map of the existing and planned trails in the area. So the purple that you see, those are the existing or planned along the roadway themselves. The green are the off-road, so those are kind of more, those are your off-road trails, and those can either be the unpaved or paved trails. We also have the brown, which are those unpaved or nature scenic trails that go through the different kind of recreational areas, nature areas in Southern Brevard County. And then we also have a couple blue ways as well. Those are paddling trails. So then our active transportation propensity index. So like I mentioned, this is where we would see the most people that would be walking and biking in Southern Brevard County. So as you all may expect, kind of Palm Bay shows up at the top of that list, or kind of in the top areas. And then we also have the Barefoot Bay area kind of in the southeast portion of our study area. So overlaying those trails with the ATPI, that Active Transportation Propensity Index, we see that we have fairly good coverage for existing and proposed trails in those areas where we would think people would be walking and biking more frequently. Really, the goal of this study is to now kind of connect these different areas, and you do see some gaps in kind of the Grant, Valcaria, Malabar sections of the county, and then the unincorporated sections as well, kind of looking to piece those areas together. So like I mentioned before, extensive stakeholder and public outreach occurred throughout the project. So we had a project working group that met 3 times throughout the project. That included all of the local municipalities, all of the local stakeholders. We met with them. We also met individually, so that was as a group so that everybody could kind of hear what everybody else had to say. We also met with a lot of those local jurisdictions and agencies kind of one-on-one in those agency stakeholder meetings. This also included utility providers like FP&L as well. And then we also had an online comment and mapping tool that accompanied our in-person and virtual open houses. The in-person open house was held at Grant Valcaria. We had about 70 attendees, a lot of great feedback, a lot of great discussion at that meeting. And then where we're at today, we're in those final board and city council and town council presentations. So we've presented to everybody that you see on the list here, and we are working on TAC-CAC today, and then the board on Thursday. So what were the key summaries from our public outreach? Really, folks preferred off-road trails and unpaved trails, really kind of getting off of the roadway network and really getting out into nature, and that's really kind of indicative of the southern part of the county. Really providing connections between the existing trails and those conservation areas, kind of dovetailing into that first one. And then really expanding access to blueways and paddleways. That was also something that came up quite frequently. And then trying to add trails in those conservation areas as well. Really kind of tying back to that nature theme that we heard from the public. So not to bore everybody with the hierarchy and typology, but very quickly, we had 3 different types of trails that we utilized and that we utilized for our recommendations for this plan. The first being primary. So these are your county-wide, statewide, regional trails. These are the ones that cross county borders or go city to city or across the entire county. There's also secondary trails, which are more kind of those citywide that connect to those different primary trails. And then tertiary, those are your kind of third level. Those are your smaller trails, maybe isolated within a local jurisdiction, and really trying to help connect different generators and attractors within a specific area. So on the recommended trails network, so we had a very data-driven approach that was supplemented by our public and stakeholder and working group feedback. So like I mentioned, we overlaid all of the existing and planned trails with our ATPI, looking and really trying to connect those areas with high scores, and then really refining that based on the feedback that we received. So very briefly, so this was our existing and planned trails network with that overlay. And so then I'll kind of click to the next slide here, and you'll see all of those existing and planned trails kind of fade to the back, and everything that pops to the front, those kind of thicker dashed lines, are the recommended trails that we're proposing in southern Brevard County. So just a very kind of to highlight how much we're looking to hopefully expand the network. So we had 255 total existing miles with about 70 previously planned as well. We are looking to add over 140 new miles of recommended trails in southern Brevard County. So it's spread across different types. So shared use trails that are off-road, so really kind of connecting the different nature areas that we have in the southern portion of the county. We're also proposing some shared use paths along roadways, but a lot of those are accompanying future construction projects like what you're seeing on hopefully Malabar, Babcock Street, different things like that. We also looked at those, and then kind of those on-street facilities as well, and then really kind of focusing in on the bottom 2, which are those unpaved natural trails, and then those scenic paddling trails as well. Overall, we're looking to hopefully expand this network to be over 460 miles when it's all implemented. So once we had our recommended network, we then had to go through a prioritization process, which then also involved a lot more data and a lot of more data-driven analysis with a lot more working group and public feedback. So in our prioritization, and I forgot to mention before, but at your place, you have a kind of 11 by 17 map with a series of tables that show all of our prioritized recommended corridors for the master plan. But we're just showing the top 10 here. And so for that top 10, our number 1 overall ranked corridor was along the C1 canal. And so this really kind of emphasized getting people off of the roadway, connecting the different kind of areas of emphasis within southern Brevard County, within our analysis area. And then we had a number of different corridors as well, a lot of them really focused on the southern Brevard Al Tuttle Trail. So really kind of making sure we're filling in the gaps for that trail, showcase trail. So in terms of next steps and kind of keeping along with the theme of the meeting today, there's a lot of coordination, a lot of partnership that it's going to take to get these trails implemented. Not to overwhelm you with the box down here, but really just kind of showing the different responsibilities by the different parties that could be responsible for getting these trails implemented. And then a little bit more detail, so just making sure we're coordinating all of us together with the Space Coast TPO to try to push these projects forward. Really what we're hoping to identify is a couple, maybe 2 local partners to really conduct a feasibility study on one of these different trail facilities, and so recommended trails. And just to emphasize, the ranking Yes, it's the ranking, it's the data that we had, it's the input from the public and the stakeholders. But if there's a project that's number 20 on the list, but a local wants to really push that forward and really wants to make an effort to get that constructed and move it forward, that's one that could move up the list and be studied as well. So not an absolute list, but one that we can continue to work on as we meet with the locals. Really, to get these built, leveraging TPO support, like I mentioned, both for the technical assistance and the financial, securing diverse funding, so looking at other funding options besides what we're kind of seeing that's readily available out there today, and then expanding those partnerships, making sure we're kind of getting this plan together and then pushing it forward to the next phase. So with that being said, I will take any questions or comments before I move on to my second presentation.
Can I get some definitions of what materials or designs when you say shared use path along road?
Yep.
Is that a sidewalk made out of cement, or is that going to be asphalt?
So typically shared use paths are going to be asphalt.
Okay.
In certain, I mean, it varies, but typically most of the ones that I see that are shared use paths are those asphalt paths.
Because the running community and the cycling community actually prefer asphalt.
Right, and I know the joints in the concrete create
It's
issues.
a pain in the ass.
Yeah, yep.
Literally.
Yep. Yep.
You said it, not me.
I'm uncomfortable with this. We need to talk more.
Okay.
Travis, I noticed under next steps, secure diverse funding, private. Is there really the possibility of corporations, individuals providing funding for some of these trails?
I won't name specifics, but there are folks that are very interested in this project that work for corporations that these trails could directly benefit them and the folks that are going to and from their workplace. So
Thank you. I just needed, that's good. Thank
Yep.
Pete?
Yeah, Ginger?
Hey, hello again.
Second time, right?
Well, yeah, right. It seemed like I just saw you the other day. And the other day when I saw you, we discussed Merritt Island and we discussed South Brevard. But there's a part 3 that really wasn't touched, and that's 192 and Highway 50, which you call the east-west connecting trails. Now, both of those trails are kind of outside municipalities, DOT land, and I know Highway 50 has a good wildlife refuge on the north side that probably goes all the way to the Brevard County line, so it should be relatively easy to build. Where are these trails connecting to? Question number 1. You know, they got to go someplace. You're calling them east-west connectors. On your maps, they stop at the county line. Where do they go?
So I'm not sure, the State Road 50 and the,
Can we wait till that item comes up on the agenda to discuss this, Pete?
yeah.
It's coming up.
So that'll be the third. That'll be the third. I thought that was what it tied to,
Yeah, I
but
thought we were already there, but we were skipping over it like last time. We skipped over the third. We just barely mentioned it.
No, we're still on item 5C1.
Yep. So,
Okay. And there's no vote, is there a vote per item, 1, 2, and 3, or is it all one?
think it's
It's
all
all one.
one.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Discussion on item 1 for now. All right.
I have a
Hold that.
question. How are we going to keep non-motorized vehicles off these facilities? Accountability.
yeah, so that's come up a couple different times. At this point, you know, TPO is not a policy organization for the local municipalities. So if a trail were to get implemented, if a trail were to get constructed, I think as a part of that feasibility, part of that upfront feasibility, there would have to be a discussion about how we're kind of working with that community or the policymakers to figure out how restrictive or unrestricted that access is.
I can help her out with that, having constructed and worked on trails. Where the intersections are, we put planters. And you know, the planters keep cars off. I've used the Seminole Trail System probably for 10 years, and I never once saw a car on their trail system. Here in Brevard County, we're wide open. So, you know, if somebody wants to go on there with a vehicle, they can. But those little planters with the curbs at every intersection, they seem to work pretty nice. That is a way. That's not that Brevard County will incorporate that. I'm just helping you out with my personal experience. you know, it's like everybody does their own thing,
I'm
but that's
inquiring
one
about
way.
golf carts and then also
Motorized,
illegal e-bikes that
yeah.
exceed the speed of 28 miles an hour with assist.
Right. Yeah, so we didn't specifically address that as a part of our plan, but we know that that is going to be an emphasis area for that future trail or trails.
Well,
that come
e-bikes
into it.
are still classified as bicycles, correct?
There's many illegal bikes that are out there that go exceed.
Oh, no, hey, I get it. I'm really into that, especially what they call the Class 2, which you don't have to pedal. You just hit the gas and it goes. And then they can modify it, blow out the governors, and go a lot faster than the 20 miles an hour they're supposed to be regulated to. That's a problem all to itself. You know, we're talking how to keep vehicles, and to me, a definition of a vehicle, well, bicycles are vehicles, but we're looking like maybe automobiles, or, you know, something that could hurt you. E-bikes can too, but that's a different subject. They need to be regulated. I agree with you. But that's, you know, something totally different. I can keep a car off, now I can't keep an e-bike off.
I'm seeing e-bikes that come into my store now that are going 35 to 50 miles an hour that weigh 80 pounds, and there's no regulations or accountability for these, and law enforcement's not trained in these accountability.
Yeah, we've been talking about that for over a year and a half, 2 years, how to regulate e-bikes. So none of this is news. We know it's a problem. And it's something you're seeing more on the TV, and we're talking about it more. And, you know, Sarah, the state has given local governments the right to regulate e-bikes, and the TPO right now is working on a set of regulations to help the local governments out. So, you know, it's amongst all of us. We got to pitch in, and, you know, you're an advocate for, you know, bicycle safety, and I get that. And, you know, it's going to take all of us to make this work, and it's already starting. And, you know, when they come out with their list and give it to us like Sarah promised me, we'll see what they got, and we can kick in and maybe help her out a little. We cool?
Eric?
So on one of the slides, you have 69 miles of like previous planned trails, and then there's 142 of new trail proposed. So is there a difference in terms of where they are in the planning process? So with the 69, would some of them already have feasibility studies or approval by the towns or that sort of thing? And would that affect maybe they're like 6 or 8 years out as opposed to 15?
Yeah, absolutely. So the 69 would have been ones that are previously studied, or like I mentioned, you know, the Malabar, the Babcocks, those are in those kind of further, those PD&E studies potentially going into design, and so those are a little bit further along. So yeah, I'd agree. You know, anything that was existing or planned was not included in the recommended list that you see in front of you. Those are the 142 new miles of trails for this area. So, yep.
Back there?
For project one, the Seaward Canal, do you know if that's intended on the north or south bank? I know both banks have existing features that could be tied into it.
Yeah, we don't know specifics yet, but that is one of those where if that moved forward as a feasibility study, that could be determined. So.
Are we ready to move on to item 2?
I believe so.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, awesome. So moving on to the North Merritt Island Pioneer Trail feasibility study. So we'll talk through brief project introduction, talk through existing conditions analysis that we performed, the different corridor alignments that we explored as a part of this project, talk a little bit more about Pine Island Conservation Area, a little bit of our public involvement, and then potential next steps. So for our project introduction, so we are on Merritt Island, just north of State Route 528. Our study area is really kind of the land portion north of the Barge Canal Bridge, going up to, I would say, kind of Pine Island Road, if it were to go west or kind of east across the island instead of kind of cutting down to the south. And then you see the study area kind of highlighted here. This was an FDOT Sun Trail program funded study. So using kind of DOT's money to come in to help support the goals of the community and really kind of push this project forward. And it was done by the Space Coast TPO in coordination with Brevard County Parks and Rec, and then obviously DOT District 5 because of the Sun Trail connection. This was identified on the Showcase Trails network, and it was an essential spur for the East Coast Greenway, so really looking at how we're connecting north-south and then getting from 528 up to the Pine Island Conservation Area. and it's that critical local connection for residents and the recreational areas on North Merritt Island. So to bring back our inverted triangle graphics, so we've kind of taken one step down. So going from that kind of long-range transportation plan, that sub-area study, and moving into what we would call that feasibility study. So that's where we're at for this project. And in terms of the purpose and need, so the purpose of this project was to provide a safe trail connection from State Road 528 to the Pine Island Conservation Area, really getting at system linkage, so providing that continuous north-south trail connection, providing a physically separated facility from the roadway to enhance safety, really kind of spur economic development in this area as well, or to continue to spur economic development, and then really enforce and enhance those modal interrelationships, mainly for those ped bike users in the area. So for our existing conditions analysis, just very briefly, so the left side is the paved versus unpaved facilities. These are actually the roadways that we were looking at in the study area for potential trail corridors. The reason why we wanted to kind of differentiate between the paved versus the unpaved, this would matter when it comes to what that trail may look like adjacent to that facility. So if we know that we have a paved roadway, that area is already disturbed. If we're coming in with a paved asphalt trail next to it, a little bit less from an environmental impact standpoint. But if we're coming out with an unpaved roadway and we're putting in an asphalt trail, there may be a little bit more in terms of drainage and environmentally sensitive features that we're going to have to kind of work through. So really just kind of setting the stage for what we could put this trail next to for the different roadway types that we have out there. We also wanted to get an idea for our existing parks, trails where we could connect to, and our ped bike facilities in the area. As you see from a ped bike facility standpoint, really not a whole lot out there. There are those shoulders on Courtney Parkway. We all know riding on a 4 or 5 foot shoulder next to 65+ mile/hour traffic is not ideal, but that's the facility that we have on State Road 3. And then we also have some existing sidewalks on North Tropical Trail and a few of the side roads, east-west side roads that connect in to Courtney Parkway. So looking at crash data was also critical of kind of where we wanted to place this trail in this area. And so no surprise, State Road 3 Courtney Parkway was our highest crash corridor of the different roadways that we looked at. You see that in the heat map, a lot more crashes centered along Courtney Parkway. And then we also had a majority of our ped bike crashes occur along North Courtney Parkway as well. But we did have one crash over on North Tropical on the west side of the island as well. So in terms of our corridor alignment analysis, going back to the map of kind of the paved and unpaved trails that we were showing, or the paved and unpaved roadways that we were showing, that was really an emphasis. That was our starting point for identifying potential corridors where this trail could potentially align. So the key corridors north-south, that was what we called kind of our spine network. That involved Courtney Parkway, State Road 3, North Tropical Trail, and then Judson Road kind of up to the north and east in our study area. East-west corridors that we also reviewed: Grant, Smith, Hall, Chase Hammock, Porsche, Crisafulli, Magruder, and Pine Island roads. So I just rattled all those off. Basically every single east-west road to provide those connections back into the different communities on North Merritt Island. So in looking at these different corridors, we evaluated all the corridors to identify fatal flaws. Those fatal flaws were identified in red, really kind of looking at the different purpose and need elements and other variables, safety, comfortability of the road user, mainly those pedestrians and bicyclists, looking at connecting those modal interrelationships, public input, safety, right-of-way, swales, ditches, and utilities. Those are the key fatal flaw factors for these different corridors that we looked at. So in analyzing these different corridors, I know I got to flip through here. So Judson Road, looking at the north-south first. Judson Road, this was our lowest ranked north-south corridor based on the fatal flaws and the metrics that I talked about in the previous slide. Doesn't meet the linkage purpose and need, so does not go all the way down to State Road 528. So we really kind of have a very disjointed segment if we were to select Judson Road and move that forward. There's also some environmental features as well. It's unpaved, and so that would kind of bring in that complication of putting a paved trail on an unpaved roadway that's existing today. North Tropical, that's also in red. This would provide a safe and comfortable trail environment. It's a relatively lower speed road compared to State Road 3 Courtney Parkway. There would have been some anticipated right-of-way impacts. Really, the swales, ditches, drainage, that was minimal, probably could have been worked through. But I'll talk about it here in a little bit. It was not supported by the public. So we took this corridor out to the public as our initially recommended corridor. Had over 200 people at our public meeting. A lot of those folks were very against this trail alignment on North Tropical Trail. So moving forward, we're going to move forward with North Courtney Parkway to, I guess, kind of keep it on the map, so to speak. So if somebody wants to push this corridor forward, maybe it's DOT through the SunTrails corridor or SunTrails program, we are going to keep State Road 3 on our list as our recommended corridor for this study. Based on the feedback that we received from the public, it was our highest crash roadway. There will be some potential issues with drainage. There's large swales, there's utilities, but like I said, we want to keep it on the map so it can be eligible for potential funding if this project were to progress. So then looking at the potential east-west corridors, so this goes back to an old saying that I like to say, y'all have probably heard it, if it was easy, it would have been done by now. A lot of these roadways do not have existing sidewalks, do not have any shoulders, do not have any bike facilities. It's for good reason. There's large swales, large ditches. There's a lot of environmentally sensitive areas out here as well. And you see some of the pictures that kind of show what this looks like. There's also utilities that are kind of right off the side of the road in most cases, and those right-of-way lines are fairly tight. They're really kind of at the back of those different canals and ditches along these different roadways. So in terms of feasibility for a future trail, future sidewalk, future bike facility, really at this time we deemed it unfeasible from an engineering perspective, really high cost, really high environmental impacts for trying to put anything along these different roadways. So one other area that we took a deep dive into was the Brevard County eel mosquito impoundment area, so environmentally endangered lands program. We had a few different kind of issues with this area. So I know today people will go out, they walk along the berm. There is a pretty good kind of loop in this area that could potentially be utilized as a trail, maybe an isolated trail in the future. But from our study's perspective, so like I said, it could move forward if you all wanted to pursue this, but from our study's perspective, there was a gated pump station in the northwest corner. This is a brand new pump station that Brevard County just put in, would restrict access from the roadway into this area. There are also privately owned properties that extend out into the bermed area or kind of that trail facility. And so from a government standpoint, if we were to come in and actually designate this as a trail, try to make it a trail, you would need some type of right-of-way, either an easement or a right-of-way take to kind of transfer that ownership. There's also a spillway along the southern berm that goes out into the barge canal, so likely need a new trail bridge, higher costs associated with that. And then the existing connection to the existing Pioneer Trail along Hall Road, kind of going back to those issues that I mentioned in the previous slide, high engineering, high environmental cost if we're trying to get in a sidewalk or a bike facility on Hall Road. Good news coming out of this study is we did have a recommended trail connection on the Pine Island Conservation Area that we are hoping will move forward. So through our conversation with EEL, there was a lot of support for a paved trail on Pica. So really kind of connecting from Sam's house and then kind of going north and then cutting across to where we have those retention ponds and then up to the parking lot area on the north side of the Pine Island Conservation Area. Another unique feature about this is we're also looking to add an equestrian kind of path in addition to the shared use path, and you see that in the typical section up in the upper right-hand corner. So we know that a lot of folks are bringing their horses out to the Pine Island Conservation Area today. There's already equestrian trails on the north side of Pine Island Road, and so this would provide that southern connection for them at the Sam's house. So I gave you a little bit of a teaser on the public involvement. So we held a public workshop in March and then a virtual in April, not an April Fool's joke. And we had over 200 attendees at the in-person. Sarah and other TPO staff members received numerous phone calls, emails, a lot of comment forms from the public workshop as well, really overall overwhelmingly against the project. So a lot of issues related to property impacts, existing flooding and drainage issues, oak tree impacts, and utility impacts. We also met with District 2 Commissioner Tom Goodson. He was also not supportive of the public based on the feedback that he heard from the public. So at this time, the North Merritt Island Pioneer Trail will not move forward with that North Tropical Trail alignment. Like I said, we're going to keep it on the map for Courtney Parkway, just in case someone else, maybe DOT, the county, would like to move forward with that. But at this point, it's not going to move into the next phase of planning. Oh, I talked through all that and I didn't go to the right slide. So there is everything that I just talked about. Sorry about that. All right. So then in terms of next steps, very quickly, so while we didn't identify that trail connection on North Tropical Trail, we did have some additional improvements to potentially fill in sidewalk gaps, looking at shared lane markings for on-road bicycles, and then also looking at traffic calming and safety improvements. So for folks that are very familiar with the area, North Tropical Trail is being used as kind of the bypass to Courtney Parkway, especially in the PM peak hour, everybody coming from the Space Center. And so really the residents there expressed a lot of concern about speeding on North Tropical Trail to bypass all that traffic trying to get across the Barge Canal Bridge to 528. Some different things that we can hopefully explore and potentially move forward to support that community. I mentioned Courtney Parkway already, opportunities there, and then the Sam's House to Pine Island Trail that we're looking to push that forward as well. So with that, and kind of as a part of this, the Courtney Parkway alignment and the Sam's House to Pine Island Trail will be added to the Showcase Trails Network, not in October. I think that's being done today. So with that, I'll take any questions or comments.
Yeah, Adam.
Yeah, I'm looking at the some of the corridors that were proposed, and I noticed there seems to be a preponderance of following roadways. But I got excited when I saw the one around the retention pond. Isn't that something that we could spend more time on and less likely to get public feedback of a negative type? If we stayed away from the road itself, which is not all that safe, as Ginger pointed out earlier and Mike and Pete pointed out earlier. I'm going to bring in a few comments from where I've been in the past. I was up in northern Maine. We had a trail around a pond. There are trails up in Palm Coast where my mom used to live, and some of them are significantly away from traffic. So just my comment for what it's worth.
Yeah, and that's much appreciated. And overall, the initial goal of the study was to try to connect into the existing Pioneer Trail, which is just to the north of this, just off the screen. And so when we were looking at the system linkage, so how are we getting people from 528, crossing the Barge Canal Bridge up to the Pine Island Conservation Area, what we saw is that going east of Courtney Parkway, you have a very disjointed kind of trail network for that recommended trail, that full north-south sun trail that we're trying to build. And so, you know, from a local perspective, the trail around the mosquito impoundment could be something that could be explored locally. We're not ruling that out, but from a Showcase Trails Network perspective, from a sun trail perspective, from kind of that bigger overall network view, didn't seem feasible from our perspective for that program. So, but it could be explored as a part of another, if Brevard County, if EEL program wanted to explore that.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah, Pete.
Yeah, hey, Trevor, the speed limit on North Tropical Trail, do you know what that is?
yeah, it's 35.
35?
35
Yeah,
posted.
It could be lowered with no problem.
Yeah.
And you put the shared on the road, and, you know, bicyclists would use it because that's a lot better than going on north and south on Courtney.
Right.
So even though they don't want a trail, they can get the bicycle traffic anyway.
Yeah.
They want a trail in that.
Yeah. And that was ultimately the hope is, all right, even though we can't put a trail on this facility, there was pushback about that. Are there other ways that we can accommodate those pedestrians and bicyclists and the sharrows, the traffic calming? I think if you're going to do the sharrows, I think the traffic calming would have to be a part of that as well. Because from what we heard, there were speeding issues today, so people aren't necessarily going 35 miles per hour.
It's pretty much a local road.
Yep.
And, you know, on local road, the folks do tend to obey the speed limits or go a little bit slower. I mean, they live there, so you find a much more reasonable traffic flow. And I, for one, would use it. you know, without batting an eyelash. It's a good side street away from the main drive. So you've got the right idea there. If they don't want a trail, as long as you know, bicycles sharing the road and have arrows to guide us from the Barge Canal to Tropical Trail, we'd be okay on bicycles. I'm sure Ginger would be okay on the bicycle.
I don't like bicycle trails. I'm an on-road rider.
Yeah, right. You wouldn't mind going down North Tropical Trail, right? It's kind of traffic-free, quiet. So you're on the right track there. I like that.
Yeah, Robert?
Bob?
Were these other alternatives presented at the public meeting, and is there support for these as opposed to the one that had a lot of that were not supported?
So we didn't have any other alternatives. So we screened the corridors, the general corridor alignments, and we presented that to the public. So we kind of walked them through the thought process of, well, you could try to do it here, but it would be a very kind of hard project, maybe infeasible from an engineering and environmental perspective. So we walked them through basically the screening that got us to North Tropical Trail, and then we presented concept plans of we had two different alternatives on North Tropical, a west and an east side, that looked at varying levels of impact, and we presented those to the public.
And does that go back now for their input, or this just goes, or that'll be down the road?
This is done. This project is done. Yes.
I'd like to add to that. As a bicycle user, I have full right to use any roadway that a car does because I'm considered a vehicle. Plus, I have the additional right to use the sidewalk just so long as I yield the right of way to the pedestrian, and that's Florida law. So I don't give a squat if they want me on the road or not. I have a legal right to be on the road, and they're just going to have to eat it. Now, the shared use is just letting the car know to expect bicyclists. It doesn't mean I have to expect cars. I expect cars because I'm on the road. It's just giving them a heads up that bicycles will be there too. And so, no, they don't need to ask permission. We already have permission. But I appreciate your interest.
Ginger?
I like what's being done to Tropical Trail, and I think most of your projects need to reflect that. As a cyclist or somebody who rides their bicycle on a sidewalk or multi-use trail, every time there's an intersection, you've got conflict opportunity, and it puts the rider in a dangerous situation, and people aren't looking at that. That left and right hook kills a lot of people. Killed my customer that's 77 in July that you guys just announced earlier.
Bob, another?
Yeah, I had another quick comment. On the pump station you mentioned and the spillway around the mosquito impoundment, there's actually an interesting thing. The port owns some property up in that area, including on the berm. We've been talking with Eels, so if that project ever goes forward, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to see how we can help that portion along. So,
that sounds good.
Okay, well, I think we're ready for 5C3. One more point of clarification, maybe from Georgiana. So this is the master plan that we're amending.
Correct.
And so this North Merritt Island we just discussed, is the amendment include that this project's not going forward? Is that?
Correct.
Okay,
So
thank you, Sarah.
I have a slide and like two slides that
Okay.
outlines everything that this one action will do
All right,
as
thank
as one amendment to the bicycle and pedestrian master plan.
Right.
So this was what Pete mentioned earlier, is there is a trail that has recently been approved by the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council. It is gone through a conceptual feasibility study by the Florida Greenways and Trails Foundation. And basically the Florida Greenways and Trails Foundation approached us with creating additional east-west connections in order to connect into the lake-to-lake trail, which goes from Lake Monroe to Lake Okeechobee. So they asked if we would consider adding two east-west connectors, one on State Road 50 and one on US 192. And to answer Pete's question, yes, we only go up to the state line or to the county line with those connections because we can only plan within the county line. But my understanding is that they're working with the additional counties to continue that connection in order to make a fully connected And this will eventually go to the Florida Greenways and Trails Council to get these additional lines to be Sun Trail eligible. So really, this is just part of the process of formalizing lines so that they can be opened up for additional funding. And so, basically to Steve's point is that what we are requesting today is that we are going to amend the Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan to include the Southern Brevard Trails Master Plan recommendations within our Bike Ped Master Plan. We're going to modify the North Merritt Island Pioneer Trail alignment to reflect the results. So removing the current alignment, adding the Sam's House, and adding that North Courtney. And then adding these two east-west connectors, the US 192 and State Road 50, onto the showcase trail map, which that you can see is over there, and that does include, ooh, is this not? Okay, I apparently don't have a laser. And so this map does include those two east-west connectors, as well as also the changes to the North Merritt Island area. And it's within your agenda package as well.
192, does that go from the Osceola County line to where?
To I-95.
And the green area signifies the St. John's?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So what would that do? I mean, would they add those protected areas in that area?
It's so early in the process, Christy. I'm sorry, I couldn't tell you whether it would be a bike lane or if it would be a trail. It's probably 25, 30 years from ever anything being a reality. This is kind of just that first step. Yeah.
I don't plan to be around in 25 years.
You never know. With all the new technologies we have.
I'll be riding the e-bike that Ginger likes so much. But anyhow, that Central Trail, are they planning to have it paved? I know there's a lot of unpaved.
Correct. The plan is that that'll be a 12 to 14 foot asphalt trail.
Nice.
And almost like completely off-road.
Any additional discussion? If not, I would, do I have a motion from the TAC? Christy first, Debbie second, over to CAC.
And from the CAC, do we have a motion? Motion from Gil.
I'll
We have-
second it, District 1.
And second from Adam. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Yeah.
I would like to go
Greg.
in the affirmative with reservations. My reservation is removing the North Merritt Island Corridor Trail off of Tropical Trail and putting it onto State Route 3. Please note that.
Okay. So noted.
Okay, back over to the TAC. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Now we're moving on to item 6, reports. First, we have Chuck with Florida Department of Transportation report, item A.
Good morning. I'm Chuck Coppernell with FDOT, MPO Liaison for Space Coast TPO. And what I'd like to begin with is some upcoming resurface projects that are coming up. 2 major resurfacing projects are gearing up for construction, expected to kick off by mid-October, and this includes State Road 513 from State Road 518 to Patrick Space Force Base, and along with State Road 404 from US 1 to State Road A1A. The pedestrian safety improvement along A1A from Crescent Beach Drive to just south of Minuteman Causeway received final acceptance on August 13th, 2025. This project included a total of 12 pedestrian crossings, 6 to the northbound and 6 to the southbound. So I have some events to discuss. First of all, the last week, the first week of September, was called the Drowsy Driving Prevention Week. So this was designated on the first week of September, and drowsy driving is often underestimated compared to drunk driving. In 2023, 633 fatalities have been linked to drowsy driving, which are mostly a single driver between the hours of midnight and 6 o'clock a.m., driving at high speed and no evidence of braking. Interesting statistic is getting less than 4 hours of sleep and getting behind the wheel is roughly equivalent to a 0.12 blood alcohol content if you have been drinking alcohol. And also I want to mention that in October, we will have Mr. Joseph Fontanelli along with his team to discuss the studies, the PD&E studies for State Road 501 and State Road 524. Mr. Chair, this concludes my report.
All right. There's no questions for Chuck. We'll move on to 6B, Bicycle Pedestrian Trails Advisory Committee report. Back to Sarah. Busy day for Sarah.
All right. So the Bicycle Pedestrian Trails Advisory Committee, they met on August 25th. They received the same series of 3 trail presentations and were, recommended the adoption of the resolution as well. Due to the timing of the agenda package, the August meeting minutes were not available to go within your agenda package, as we just, met 2 weeks ago, and so you'll be provided those in the October agenda package. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions? All right. If not, we're going to move on to 6C, and we're going to hear from Patty on the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board report.
The Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board met on August 11th, and highlights of the meeting include the Transit Community Outreach Report, Volunteers in Motion second quarter report for 2025 from March to June, approval of Resolution 26-04, PLC-8 for the policy amendments, and presentations of the Advanced 2050 Long Range Transportation Cost Feasible Plan and the Vision Zero 2024 Annual Report. The next TDLCB meeting is scheduled for 10:30 a.m. November 17th at the Vieira Government Center with a public hearing to follow.
If there's no questions for Patty, are you back up for the transit report? No? Okay. Okay, we're moving on. 6D, Space Coast Area Transit Report. Thank you.
Good morning. I'll start with the fixed route. Most recent monthly ridership or fixed route saw an increase of 1.74%. That was probably the smallest increase monthly for the year. Year-to-date ridership for the month was 154,967. Year-to-date ridership has increased 5.07%. It is now standing at 1,578,951. By the end of this fiscal year, we should be at least 1.9 million ridership. We are likely to reach the 2 million mark next fiscal year, which is on par with COVID numbers. Paratransit ridership saw a 7% increase, and 7 new paratransit vehicles have been received, with 3 more vehicles expected with the support of FDOT funding. We are continuing our collaboration with Space Coast TPO toward completion of the Mobility on Demand study, and we are working toward the installation of new semi-style seat bus benches at various transit stops throughout the county. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Yeah, Adam?
Yes.
I wrote an email to Space Coast Transit several months ago requesting a response to my question, which was, can you provide larger trash containers at the bus stops? Let me tell you why I'm asking the question. For the last 9 years, I have been leading the North Action team with litter patrol. Once a month, usually on the 3rd Saturday of the month, we spend an hour and a half. Sometimes I have as many as a dozen people. Sometimes I have
one or two people. I might be the only one out there sometimes. One of my problems, and I've not said anything before in this venue, is that oftentimes the garbage cans are overflowed because they're not picking up the trash on a regular basis. I don't know if that's Space Coast Transit's responsibility. I doubt seriously it is. But it doesn't look favorably on you folks because the trash can is part of that location. So can you tell me why I haven't received a response to my question?
I personally haven't seen the email, but I can give you my personal email, and those questions probably should go directly to me. I don't have no idea why I haven't heard of that before this time.
Well, I'm not blaming you. Sometimes
Oh, that's okay.
Sometimes staff doesn't pass it up to the proper people. 20 years in the military, it happened many times with me, so I had to follow through. Thank you. I'll get with you after.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
Pete?
Mobility on demand. I've heard recently that the entire county, Seminole County, is going to mobility on demand, and I kind of was taking it lightly until I read that. So there's got to be something there if an entire county has ditched links and is going to mobility on demand. Do you think that Brevard County may go entirely mobility on demand?
I don't see that happening.
Yeah, Christie?
The question I have is that the Volunteers in Motion, so do they do kind of two duties? Do they do the paratransit and the mobility on demand?
No, that would be completely separate. Volunteers in Motion will be its own entity.
So who does because I understand Satellite Beach, they already have the mobility on demand. Who are the drivers there? I thought that was volunteers also.
I would have to get back with you on that. I don't do the volunteer motion product.
Okay, thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Jim. Moving on to our final report, item F, local government report.
No.
Nope, excuse me, public engagement report, item B.
Abby's up.
Thank you, Abby.
Yeah, hi. So before we chat about some upcoming activities for September and October, we are switching up the way that we report now, or our community engagement coordinator, Leah, she's going to be assisting me here. So just to make our efforts a little bit more comprehensive and talk about our public involvement program as a whole, because it's more than just going out into the community, although that's a big part. So to kind of start us off, I'm going to be talking about some program updates. So from a bird's eye view, I wanted to share the following. The TPO is really excited to announce the release of our brand new brand guide. I know that might seem boring to a few of you, but for me, it really was designed to help us tell our story. It's going to be a great resource for our consultants to use, that we have a consistent and cohesive look across all of our platforms, and it really reinforces our identity. You know, the TPO has been around for many years, but now we're starting to be a little bit more recognizable with our branding. Alongside the guide, we've expanded our Get to Know the SCTPO library with some new tools. So this is just a snapshot up here. A few new deliverables include our new updated one-pager, which kind of reinforces who we are, what we do. Our Transportation Improvement Program flyer that was developed this year. It's easy to digest overview of how transportation projects are prioritized and funded. And then we also developed a new transportation data rack card, which highlights some of our programs and reports that you can dig into for system trends. This is nice to give out to outreach for the people who really kind of want to dig into the data. And so these, resources are really designed to empower our staff, our partners, our community, and so we're really excited to expand upon this library. And then after 25 years, plus years probably, the TPO has made the decision to sunset our school bicycle trailer program, and I want to walk you through kind of what that means if you're not familiar with this program. So the bike trailer program was originally created to provide bicycles and trailers to schools in Brevard County with trained PE teachers to support bicycle safety education. This was not to teach how to ride bikes. This was to reinforce safety. And it worked for many, many years. It's a very beloved program by some of our veteran PE teachers. But after years of use, the bicycles and trailers have really reached their end of life. Many were acquired in the early 90s through a grant program that's not even available anymore. And so this has been a very long journey for us. This was not an overnight decision. We did some reevaluation, and there were significant safety issues along with aging equipment equitable participation. Some kids don't even know how to ride a bike anymore, which is a whole nother discussion, but they're jumping on scooters, e-bikes, other things that now are coming into the mix. And so, there were some risk factors, wear and tear on bicycles, trailers, outdated safety features compared to current standards, and then also limited availability of replacement parts. It was up to the TPO to invest in these bikes year after year, and now they're becoming more costly than the bike actually is. So after consulting with a local expert and bicycle shop owner who has been maintaining our bikes for years, it's now recommended that we discontinue this trailer program. However, with that said, the TPO is working with Keep Brevard Beautiful to responsibly dispose of these bikes. Consider donation. Quite honestly, they're just not safe to do that, but we are working in a responsible manner. At the same time, Leah is working with our PE teachers, developing a resource guide for those trained and to highlight safer, more inclusive alternatives. We want to make sure that all kids can participate, and there's some really cool off-bike curriculum mixed with some other educational opportunities. So that's kind of an update on that program. And then looking at our communications for this past quarter. So this is kind of a new report that I wanted to start sharing, kind of just gives you an overview of what our communications have been looking like. We have a really strong open rate. What that means is when we send out news releases, press releases, et cetera, we get some really good engagement. We've had some really great media coverage this last quarter. And then our website, continues to be a great place where we post planning updates and project highlights. And then what we can see for engagement across our social media platforms is that all of our platforms, for the most part, are performing very well. Facebook is really our bread and butter. We have a lot of our audience there. And then our top performing content on social is normally our awareness campaigns, project-related updates, as they're always huge with the public. And so it really shows a strong interest in educational and informational posts. And then one last thing before I go on to the next slide, just a shout out to our news media partners. We had a lot of great features this past quarter. One standout was our Stop on Red photo gallery, which Leah's going to share more about that event, but it was on the front page of Florida Today, which is not easy in today's times when you're competing with lots of stuff in the news cycle. Coming up on social media, we have some engaging topics. We're going to have National Roundabouts Week. That last year, this was actually a great conversation on social media, so we will be kind of promoting it again and get the conversation going. We have Child Passenger Safety Week happening near the end of September, and then we are gearing up for Pedestrian Safety Month in October. And then for community partnerships and stakeholders, this is a snapshot of some of our community partners that we've been working with over the last quarter. We have continued collaboration with schools, law enforcement, local governments, nonprofits, and it really just is essential for broadening our campaign reach and really reinforcing the Vision Zero mission. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Leah Nepo, our community engagement coordinator, and she's going to chat a little bit more about our recent boots on the ground activities. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
There was one program that you did that I really, really liked, and that was the school kids on bicycles, where you'd go there and actually ride bikes with them and teach them bike safety. And you're canceling that because of lack of money?
Well, I think that's one part of it. I don't think that's the only part of it. I don't think that's the only part of it. Well, a few things. One, there's still going to be bike safety education going on in the schools, whether it's the TPO there, which we have talked about that with the PE teachers. We will also, there's opportunities to still host bike rodeos. It's more the kids bringing their own bikes, and the important part of that is because they know how to ride. We have done a ton of bicycle rodeos, whether that's at the community or in the school, and what ends up happening is it becomes an unsafe environment because parents bring them and think we're teaching them how to ride a bike, and that's not the goal. It's really to work on their safety skills. And so we will still be partnering with schools if they want to do bike rodeos in community areas. So they'll still be happening. It's just our physical assets have to sunset because they're no longer safe. We can't even donate them because it's a liability.
Well, we're not talking about the bicycles. If you had the money, you could replace the bicycles. My question was, is the program stopping because you don't have money? The equipment's old, there's no replacement money, and so you said, well, or is it the fact that so many kids don't even know how to ride a bike?
I think it's multifaceted. I think money is one part of it. I think the equitable part of it is big too. You know, we're going to these schools, and if half the class doesn't know how to ride a bike and they have to sit out during PE, we need inclusive activities for these children. I think it's one part of it, but I don't think it's necessarily the one thing. It's just time for it to evolve.
Well, the reason I brought it up is the rodeos I saw, the kids would look pretty good on the bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they could handle them pretty good.
Yeah.
So if there were any deficient, I sure didn't see it. But yeah, but you were teaching them the important stuff like bike on your left, or
Yep.
you know, the advance warning that you got to give, how to stop, how to make eye contact before you cross the intersection, make sure that somebody sees you and they're
Sure.
not just stop.
Yeah.
The good stuff, and
Yeah.
you know, for you to say you stopped that. and,
Well, in this format, I want to reinform that there are other curriculums that all those things can still be taught. It's just it just looks different.
And are you doing it, or is it a plan to incorporate it?
No, we're already doing it. We have a program called Roll Right, and Leah has taught it at a couple of libraries over the summer. So we've implemented it already, and now this is just going to be kind of building up to working with the PE teachers to see what else they want to do.
I like real life out on the road,
Mm-hmm.
where the tires in the road meet.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
Adam?
that's it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Abby,
Yes.
two questions, and I'll
Sure.
try to be brief.
Yeah.
The public involvement program, where are those brochures going to be made available? Will you be sending them to Chamber of Commerce's and public libraries?
Yes, we already give, when Georgina goes out and does speaking engagements, we always do our annual report. But yes, I have a multitude of these. If you are interested, I can courier them to you. I can deliver them to you. But yeah, we have copies of all this good stuff at our office. And I can send them to you, or you can stop by and we can make a plan. Yeah, but we try to always, if we're doing speaking engagements specifically, we try to make sure that we have our assets there.
And then the other thing, can you explain why the graph on the next slide went all the way up for June? What was the issue that caused the responses to increase so dramatically?
So social media, we know, is cyclical. So, right, so you might see ebbs and flows. In June, we were doing a lot of events, and so you can see even on the bottom here, which kind of shows you the biggest trends for that chunk of time. We had a crazy response to, we had boosted something for the LRTP, so that's when you put money on a post, and so that will generate more views. And that was also for our open house, happened during the month of June as well. So we had a lot more activity during the month of June versus July.
Why you glossed over it, I wanted to.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, of course. All right.
Abby,
Yeah.
quick question. I know you mentioned in the bike program,
Yeah.
you're working with KBB.
Uh-huh.
I believe the sheriff's office still has if they can be refurbished, where they'll go and refurbish and
Yeah.
donate them. I don't know if you
We
looked
did
into
explore
too.
that, but yeah, it's still not a viable option at this point. But I appreciate you. I appreciate you bringing it up. Okay. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Leah.
Next time, go platinum.
All right. Well, good morning. My name is Leah Neppo. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for the Space Coast TPO, and I've been doing that over the last 6 months. So in my role, I advocate for traffic safety, and I heighten the message of not only the TPO, but Vision Zero as well. And a powerful approach to that is earning recognition in the community through outreach events, which can range from speaking engagement, helmet fits, tabling events, or SCTPO-led events that can be as specific or as broad of a scope as we kind of like. So being a part of public involvement means that the TPO stayed busy this summer. We had 17 events happen between the last TAC-CAC meeting and now, reaching cities as far north as Titusville and as far south as Palm Bay. And we will dive deeper into kind of what we've done and what there is to expect. So, not a lot can be accomplished without our partnership, so that's kind of what we're highlighting here. Back in July, Abby and I attended Brevard School Foundation's 2025 Back to School Blast Off Supply Giveaway in Cocoa at the Clear Lake Education Center. This event had a huge turnout, with us meeting face to face with well over 500 students, probably more, and supplying them with physical traffic safety items such as bike lights, helmet covers, safety vests, and educational comic books and coloring books ahead of the new school year. In that middle section in August, the TPO led a helmet fit alongside Health First, FDOT D5 Safety Office, and OSHA Planning at the Palm Bay Police Department's National Night Out. This annual event honors police involvement in the community, and it garnered a large crowd. Individuals that got to step away with perfectly fitted helmets to their head and equipped with materials that taught them the importance of bike safety. And at this event alone, within 2 hours, we were able to fit over 60 heads that did not previously ride with a helmet. And then all the way off to that side, during the first week of August, the TPO participated in Stop on Red Week, which we discussed a little bit later in more detail, but that was a huge collaboration between multiple agencies, and it led to a very large success. And when you think about the approach to traffic safety between engineering, enforcement, and education, the public involvement team really hones in on the education piece here through our speaking engagements. So throughout the summer, our executive director, Georgiana Gillette, spoke at multiple chamber luncheons throughout the county, educating them on who the TPO is, how our roads work, and how every community member can be involved. And additionally, as some of you may know, the TPO led a 2-part workshop series with the city of Cape Canaveral throughout the summer, specific to aging road users. In August, we completed that second workshop and called upon our partners at the city of Cape Canaveral and Brevard County Sheriff's Office to lead presentations as well, educating aging road users on their specific risks and their specific resources in the community available to them, and highlighting the city and the law enforcement's strides in engineering and in enforcement. And then to do a little bit of an event spotlight on Stop on Red Week, it's a new part of the public involvement report, and it just kind of highlights how large-scale outreach events are developed and implemented. So the first full week of August is nationally recognized as Stop on Red. It was created by the Federal Highway Administration, and it's been spearheaded by the National Coalition for Safer Roads. And this campaign aims to educate drivers about the dangers of red light running and reduce the number and severities of related crashes. The urgency of this work is clear. In 2023, 84 people were killed and an estimated 681 were seriously injured in Florida due to red light running. So nationwide, 1 in 3 Americans know someone who has been injured or killed in such a crash. So the TPO had campaign efforts that supported this initiative by assisting communities with awareness campaigns while running our own. To expand local outreach, we developed a Stop on Red toolkit that was available on our website and through social media. And this toolkit included not only graphics with key statistics to educate, but also interactive resources such as coloring books and word searches to engage all ages. We also coordinated our own on-the-ground campaign by partnering with West Melbourne, selecting a high injury corridor and gathering volunteers to wave signs and reminding drivers to stop on red. So as mentioned, we partnered with the City of West Melbourne and the West Melbourne Police Department in recognition of their leadership in traffic safety and Vision Zero efforts. And we identified a location way back in April, the intersection of Hollywood Boulevard and Evans Road on US 192, which was recently an upgraded intersection for safety with TPO funding. To build momentum, we invited guest speakers to highlight the importance of Stop on Red, including Chief of Police for West Melbourne, Greg Vesta, Lorene Bobo, FDOT's District 5 Safety Office, Mayor of West Melbourne and SCTPO Board Chair Andrea Young, Melissa Wandel, President of the National Coalitions for Safer Roads and founder of the Mark Wandel Foundation, and our very own Executive Director, Georgiana Gillette. The week began with a symbolic display at the PD where red pinwheels and an explanatory sign were placed along Minton Road. It stayed up for the whole week, serving as a daily reminder for all drivers. And the sign waving event itself was made possible through collaboration with several partners, such as mentioned, City of West Melbourne, FDOT District 5, West Melbourne Police Department, Health First, Space Coast Health Foundation, Brevard County Tax Collector's Office, City of Melbourne, and Space Coast Area Transit. Media coverage was strong, as Abby mentioned, with multiple outlets reporting on the event, including a front page feature in the local newspaper. And on the day of the event, more than 50 sign wavers braved the August heat for 2 hours, heard our speakers, and took part in this life-saving awareness campaign, while West Melbourne also conducted an enforcement operation, pulling over one person who ran a red light during the event itself. a powerful reminder of the continued need for education and enforcement. So though through Stop on Red Week, the TPO and its partners not only were able to spread the awareness, but also demonstrated that community-wide effort required to eliminate these very preventable crashes. Annual outreach events like these are a huge lift, and it takes a village, which we most certainly have. Okay, so upcoming in the fall, we have many more outreach events, even more than what's on this slide. And particularly important to highlight is on October 1st, we have a crosswalk pop-up sign waving event, reminding drivers to yield to pedestrians and encouraging pedestrians to practice safe walking habits at 5th and Palm in Indy Atlantic. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to me or catch me after this. And October 8th is National Annual Walk and Roll to School Day. So the TPO has already put out our toolkit for this and distributed it to each school. And as of today, with it being exactly a month away, we have over 19 schools registered to join in on the fun and encouraging students to travel to school in an alternative way. So as always, you can stay in the know in numerous ways, connect instantly with us over our socials, share our flyers, share us your flyers, because an outreach opportunity is always available in some way, shape, or form. So thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Very good presentation.
Thank you.
I'm very attentive. I noticed you said 19 schools have agreed to participate and we're 1 month out. What percentage is that?
Yeah, so in total, we have 86 schools within Brevard County. Typically, high schools don't often participate in this, but on average, for the last 5 years, we've had anywhere between, and that includes COVID, we've had anywhere between 30 and 35 schools that eventually register. To register, it's a very simple process. You go on the website, you just put in the information. So I suspect that 19 schools with a month out, that'll definitely double is my suspicion.
One follow-on. Are you including the private and parochial schools?
Yep, all schools can.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Thank you, Leah.
Finally, the local government report. Do we have anyone that wishes to report from local government? If not,
Meeting's adjourned.
meeting is adjourned.
Great job.